Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the sun's gentle embrace bathed the apartment in a warm glow, each ray a caress on the floor, a figure glided gracefully, their heels whispering a soft tempo on the hardwood. It was a dance of anticipation, the final touches before the transformation was complete. The bathroom and bedroom served as sacred chambers in this ritual. In the mirror, a vision unfolded. Years of honing a persona were reflected in every detail. Auburn locks cascaded, a delicate frame for the face, while makeup, applied with the precision of a master, accentuated the eyes and lips. A forest green blouse whispered against fair skin, a sartorial choice as deliberate as the steps of a carefully choreographed dance. The figure breathed, Claire, relishing the sound of the name, a name that was a shield and a sanctuary. It was an identity forged through determination, layer by layer, until it became a second skin. This sanctuary, this hidden world beyond the closed door, was Claire's oasis. That day remained seared in memory. The thunderous voice, the threats, the ultimatum. Roger had chosen college and independence over homelessness, burying Claire deeper with each passing year. Until now. The emerald green bridesmaid dress hung on the closet door, its delicate lace detailing catching the light. It had been an impulsive purchase after seeing it in a boutique window, knowing instantly how perfectly it would fit. Not just the measurements, though those had been carefully taken, but how it would complement auburn hair and fair skin. Claire ran fingertips over the silky fabric, heart racing. The RSVP had already been sent. Roger would attend Cousin Melissa's wedding, but Claire was determined to walk through those church doors instead. "You're insane," Claire murmured to the reflection, applying another coat of mascara. "Absolutely insane." The phone buzzed on the bathroom counter. "Just checking you're still coming tomorrow," Melissa's text read. "Dad says Uncle Frank has been asking if you'll be there." Uncle Frank. Father. The man who had thrown a teenage Roger against a wall upon discovering his secret, bellowing about shame and disappointment while Mother's dresses lay scattered across the bedroom floor. Claire's hand trembled slightly, smudging eyeliner. After blotting it away, she texted back, "Wouldn't miss it." The response came immediately. "Great! We've missed you at family stuff. Can't wait to see you." Claire set the phone down and gripped the edge of the sink. Tomorrow would change everything. Either the family would see her, truly see her, or she would lose them completely. "Better to be authentic than live a lie," she whispered, the mantra that had carried her through the darkest moments of the past decade. The emerald dress waited. Morning arrived with persistent sunlight and the distant sound of traffic. Claire had barely slept, rehearsing scenarios and escape routes should things go catastrophically wrong. The wedding was at 2, giving plenty of time for final preparations. A hot shower helped calm frayed nerves. Steam filled the bathroom as Claire carefully shaved, then applied a rich moisturizer that smelled faintly of vanilla. Each step of the routine had been perfected over years, the foundation that minimized any masculine features, the contouring that softened her jawline, the way she shaped auburn brows to frame her face. With each brushstroke and blend, Roger receded further into the background. Claire emerged more confident, more real. The dress slipped on easily, cool fabric against warm skin. The mirror reflected someone complete, someone who had existed in fragments for too long. Auburn hair cascaded over bare shoulders, styled in loose waves that had taken an hour to perfect. The emerald green complemented her carefully applied makeup, making hazel eyes appear more vibrant. "This is who I am," Claire said firmly to her reflection. "This has always been who I am." The drive to the church took 30 minutes. Claire's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white with tension. The car radio played softly. Some top 40 hit about reinvention and becoming your true self that seemed almost too on the nose for the moment. The church parking lot was already half full when she arrived. Familiar family cars lined the spaces. Aunt Judith's minivan, Cousin Patrick's pickup truck, and there, in the front row reserved for immediate family, Father's black sedan. Claire's stomach clenched. She considered driving away, returning to the safety of her apartment where Claire could exist without judgment. But something kept her there, hands still on the wheel, engine idling. "Now or never," she whispered. The clicking of heels against pavement felt impossibly loud as Claire made her way toward the church entrance. Each step brought curious glances from distant relatives who clearly recognized something familiar but couldn't quite place her. The emerald dress caught the sunlight, lace details creating delicate patterns on her skin. At the church steps, a familiar voice called out, "Roger, is that you?" Melissa stood there in her wedding gown, having stepped outside for a moment of fresh air before the ceremony. Her expression shifted from confusion to surprise to a slow, dawning comprehension. "It's Claire, actually," came the reply, voice steady despite the thundering heartbeat. Melissa stared for a long moment, then did something unexpected. She smiled. "Claire," she repeated, testing the name. "I like it. It suits you." She glanced down at the emerald dress. "And you're wearing green. My wedding color. I hope that's okay. I know I'm not technically a bridesmaid, but—" "It's perfect!" Melissa interrupted, reaching out to take Claire's hands. "You look beautiful." Tears threatened to ruin carefully applied mascara. Claire blinked them back, squeezing Melissa's hands gratefully. "Your father is inside," Melissa added more quietly. "He doesn't know you're coming." "I know." "Are you ready for this?" Claire took a deep breath. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Melissa's smile widened. "That's the Roger I remember. Always braver than you thought." She corrected herself. "The Claire, I mean." "I'm still getting used to it too." They shared a laugh that dissolved some of the tension. Melissa linked her arm through Claire's. "Come on! I'm not walking into my wedding without my favorite cousin by my side." The church interior was cool and dim after the bright sunshine outside. Flower arrangements in white and emerald green adorned each pew end, matching the color scheme Claire had so fortuitously chosen. Soft music played as guests found their seats, the low murmur of conversation filling the space. Claire felt every eye turn as she entered alongside Melissa. The murmurs grew louder, confused whispers passing between relatives trying to identify the auburn-haired woman in the emerald dress. Recognition dawned on some faces. Shock, confusion, and occasionally a smile of understanding. And then, in the front row, Father turned around. 10 years had added more gray to his hair and deeper lines around his eyes. He still sat with military straightness, shoulders square, chin lifted slightly. His eyes widened as they locked with Claire's, confusion giving way to recognition, and then, the expression Claire had feared most, anger. Frank Holloway rose from his seat, face flushing red beneath his tan. Claire's steps faltered, but Melissa's grip tightened reassuringly. "Keep walking," Melissa whispered. "This is my day, and I want you here." They continued down the aisle, past whispering relatives and wide-eyed friends. Claire kept her gaze forward, chin up, embodying a confidence she didn't entirely feel. The emerald dress caught the light filtering through stained glass windows, sending green reflections dancing across the stone floor. Father remained standing, watching their approach with an unreadable expression. When they reached the front row, he opened his mouth to speak, but the wedding coordinator appeared at that moment, clapping her hands for attention. "Places, everyone! We're starting in 5 minutes!" Melissa squeezed Claire's hand once more before disappearing into a side room where her father waited to walk her down the aisle. Claire was left standing alone, acutely aware of Father's presence just feet away. "Roger," he said, voice low and controlled. Claire turned to face him fully. "Hello, Father." His gaze traveled from auburn hair to emerald dress to carefully applied makeup. His jaw tightened visibly. "What is this?" he demanded, gesturing at Claire's appearance. "This is me," Claire replied simply. "The real me." Father's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You dare show up like this? At a family wedding?" "I'm still family." "You're making a spectacle of yourself." "I'm being honest for the first time in years." The wedding coordinator reappeared, giving them both a pointed look. "Everyone, please take your seats. We're about to begin." Father's glare intensified, but he sat down stiffly. Claire moved to sit several rows back, away from immediate family, heart pounding in her chest. The confrontation had been brief, but left her shaking internally. She smoothed the emerald fabric over her knees, focusing on steadying her breathing. The ceremony began, music swelling as the wedding party processed down the aisle. Claire watched her cousin's radiant face as Melissa entered on her uncle's arm, trying to stay present in the moment despite the weight of Father's occasional backward glances. Throughout the vows and rings and prayers, Claire remained aware of her visibility, the auburn hair, the emerald dress, the makeup that couldn't be mistaken for anything but intentional femininity. Every shift in her seat sent lace details catching the light. Every deep breath drew attention to the careful contouring that gave the illusion of a feminine figure. When the ceremony ended and the newlyweds recessed down the aisle, Claire stood with the other guests, applauding their happiness. The formal photographs would come next, followed by the reception at a nearby hotel. Claire had planned to make an appearance at the ceremony only, then slip away before interactions became unavoidable. Those plans dissolved when Melissa's mother approached, eyes curious but kind. "Roger, or should I say Claire? Melissa tells me that's your name now." Claire nodded cautiously. "Yes, Aunt Patricia. I prefer Claire." Patricia studied her face for a moment. "You know, you look remarkably like your mother in that shade of green. She wore a dress almost that color to my wedding." She smiled softly. "Margaret always did have excellent taste." The mention of mother, gone 7 years now after a brief battle with cancer, brought an unexpected lump to Claire's throat. "Thank you. I didn't know that." "Your father's having a difficult time with this," Patricia continued, glancing toward where Frank stood stiffly by the church entrance. "But I want you to know you're welcome at the reception. Melissa would be disappointed if you didn't come." Claire hesitated. "I'm not sure that's a good idea." "Family is family," Patricia said firmly. "And today is about celebration. not judgment. She squeezed Claire's arm gently. The emerald dress suits you. Margaret would have thought so too. With that, she moved away to coordinate with the photographer, leaving Claire torn between the safety of retreat and the pull of potential reconciliation. The hotel ballroom had been transformed with white drapery and emerald accents that matched Claire's dress so perfectly it seemed like fate. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over round tables adorned with floral centerpieces. A dance floor occupied the center of the room, currently empty, but waiting for the celebration to begin in earnest. Claire entered tentatively, conscious of the stares following her progress through the room. The emerald dress caught the light with each step, making discreet entrance impossible. She found her assigned table, far from the wedding party, but populated with distant cousins who seemed more curious than hostile. Roger? One of them, Daniel, approached cautiously. It is Roger, right? I go by Claire now, she corrected gently. Daniel nodded, processing this information. Claire, okay, you look different. Thank you, I think. No, I mean, good different. He smiled awkwardly. The green suits you. More cousins joined them, each with varying degrees of confusion and acceptance. Claire answered their questions as honestly as she could, explaining that this was who she had always been beneath the surface. Some nodded in understanding, others clearly struggled with the concept but remained polite. Across the room, Father sat at the family table, pointedly avoiding looking in Claire's direction. The tension between them stretched invisibly across the crowded space. Dinner was served, some chicken dish with seasonal vegetables that Claire barely tasted, too aware of the occasional glances and whispers. The wedding toasts offered brief respite, attention turning to the happy couple and their future together. As the formal proceedings concluded and the dance floor opened, Claire decided it was time to leave. She had made her statement, had been seen as her authentic self, but the emotional toll was mounting. She rose from the table, smoothing the emerald fabric of her dress. You're not leaving already? Melissa appeared suddenly at her side, having made her rounds to greet guests. I think I've caused enough of a stir for one day, Claire replied with a tired smile. Melissa frowned. You haven't caused anything. You're just being yourself. Father hasn't spoken to me all evening. Uncle Frank is... Melissa hesitated, searching for the right words. He's struggling, but he's watching you, you know, when you're not looking. Claire glanced toward the family table. Sure enough, Father quickly averted his gaze. Come dance with me, Melissa said suddenly, taking Claire's hand. One dance before you go. Melissa, I don't think... It's my wedding day. You can't say no to the bride. Before Claire could protest further, she found herself led to the dance floor. The emerald dress swirled around her legs as Melissa pulled her into a simple two-step. Other guests watched with curious expressions, but Melissa's bright smile diffused any tension. You're causing quite the scandal, Melissa teased quietly. Aunt Judith nearly fainted when she realized who you were. Claire winced. I'm sorry. Don't be. This family could use some shaking up. Melissa spun them in a circle, the emerald dress catching the light. Besides, I've never seen you look so comfortable in your own skin. The real scandal would be forcing you to be someone you're not. They continued dancing, Claire gradually relaxing into the movement. The emerald fabric flowed with each step, auburn hair catching the light as they turned. For a moment, the stares and whispers faded into background noise, overshadowed by the simple joy of being authentic. The song ended, and Claire stepped back with a grateful smile. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me, for accepting me." Melissa squeezed her hand. "Always." As they moved off the dance floor, Claire looked up to find Father standing directly in their path. His expression remained unreadable, but something in his posture had shifted, the rigid anger replaced by something more complex. "May I have a word?" he asked, voice carefully controlled. Melissa shot Claire a concerned glance. "Uncle Frank, this isn't... It's okay," Claire interrupted. "We need to talk eventually." Father nodded stiffly, gesturing toward the hotel terrace. Claire followed, the emerald dress brushing against her legs with each step. The evening air felt cool after the warmth of the reception, stars visible above despite the city lights. They stood in silence for a long moment, Father staring out at the darkened garden rather than at Claire.
"Your mother had a dress that color,"
he finally said, voice rough.
"Aunt Patricia mentioned that."
Another silence stretched between them.
"Why now?"
Father asked, eventually.
"Why here, at Melissa's wedding?"
Claire considered her answer carefully. "Because I'm tired of hiding. Because family should know who I really am." She paused. "Because I couldn't keep living two separate lives." Father turned then, really looking at her, taking in the auburn hair, the careful makeup, the emerald dress that complemented her complexion so perfectly.
"You look like her,"
he said quietly.
"Like Margaret."
The comparison to Mother, offered for the second time that day, brought tears to Claire's eyes.
"Is that why you're angry? Because I remind you of her?"
Father's expression softened almost imperceptibly.
"I'm not angry.
He struggled visibly with the words.
"I don't understand this. Any of it."
"You don't have to understand. You just have to accept that this is who I am, who I've always been." "Since when? When did this start?" Claire laughed softly, though there was little humor in it. "Since always, Father. Long before you caught me in Mother's clothes. That wasn't experimentation. It was recognition." Father turned away again, hands gripping the terrace railing.
"I thought it was a phase. Something you'd grow out of."
"It's not a phase. It's me." Claire moved to stand beside him, emerald fabric rustling softly.
"I've spent years trying to be Roger for you, but Claire is who I truly am."
The distant sound of music from the reception filled the silence between them. Father's knuckles whitened against the railing.
"What am I supposed to tell people?"
he asked, finally.
"That your child is happy. That I'm still the same person inside. Still interested in history books and classic movies. Still terrible at card games. Still family."
Father shook his head, slowly.
"It's not that simple."
"It could be," Claire said, softly. "If you let it." Another long silence fell between them, less tense than before. A breeze stirred Claire's auburn hair, carrying the scent of the hotel's garden roses.
"The dress,"
Father said abruptly.
"It really does remind me of her. The night we met, she wore something that color. Not as fancy, but the same shade."
A ghost of a smile touched his lips.
"I told her she looked like autumn personified."
Claire hadn't heard this story before. Father rarely spoke of the early days with Mother. "You never told me that."
"There's a lot I haven't told you."
He glanced sideways at Claire.
"Just as there's apparently a lot you haven't told me."
"We could start now?" Claire suggested. "Talking honestly." Father straightened, military posture reasserting itself. For a moment, Claire feared the tentative connection would break. Then he nodded once, decisively.
"Perhaps we could have dinner. Next week. He hesitated. "Just us."
"I'd like that," Claire replied, careful to keep her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. Father nodded again, clearly uncomfortable but making an effort.
"I should return to the reception. Your aunt will be wondering where I've gone."
"I'll be in shortly." He moved toward the door, then paused.
"Claire,"
he said, testing the name for the first time. It sounded strange in his voice, but not rejecting.
"The green suits you."
With that, he returned inside, leaving Claire alone on the terrace, the emerald dress shifting gently in the evening breeze. The reception continued into the night, but Claire found herself less concerned with leaving early. The conversation with Father had shifted something, not resolved everything, certainly, but created a small opening where before there had been only a wall. She rejoined her table, now more comfortable engaging with curious relatives. Their questions came from genuine interest rather than judgment, and Claire found herself explaining aspects of her identity she had never articulated aloud before. "So, you've always felt this way?" her second cousin Martha asked, leaning forward with interest. "For as long as I can remember," Claire confirmed, smoothing the emerald fabric over her knees. "I just didn't have the words for it when I was younger."
"And the name, Claire. How did you choose it?"
Claire smiled softly.
"It was my grandmother's middle name. Mother's mother. I always liked the sound of it."
Across the room, she occasionally caught Father watching her, not with anger now, but with something more complex. Once, when their eyes met, he didn't immediately look away. Instead, he gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Progress. Small, but real. As the evening wore on, Claire found herself drawn into conversation with more relatives, some she hadn't seen in a decade or more. The emerald dress became less a statement and more simply what she was wearing. Beautiful, complementary to her auburn hair, but no longer the focus of every interaction. Melissa's father approached at one point, awkwardly offering Claire a glass of champagne.
"You've been the talk of the reception,"
he said with a wry smile.
"Stole a bit of my daughter's thunder."
"I never meant to." He waved away her concern.
"Melissa doesn't mind. Says she's proud of you."
He studied Claire's face for a moment.
"Frank and I have been friends since we were kids, you know. Never seen him as shaken as he was seeing you today."
Claire tensed. "Is that good or bad?"
"Good, I think. Frank's always been—"
He searched for the right word.
"Rigid. Sees the world in black and white. This is forcing him to see some gray."
He nodded toward where Father sat at the family table.
"He kept that photo of Margaret in the green dress on his desk for years after she passed. You really do look like her."
The comparison warmed Claire in unexpected ways.
"Thank you for telling me that. Give him time,"
Melissa's father advised, patting her shoulder before moving on to greet other guests. As the reception began winding down, Claire found herself lingering, reluctant to end this first public appearance as her authentic self. The emerald dress had drawn compliments throughout the evening, its color bringing out the warmth in her auburn hair and complementing her fair skin. Father approached as she was gathering her purse, his movements slightly stiff but determined. "You're leaving?" he asked. Claire nodded. "It's getting late." "I could walk you to your car." The offer surprised her. "I'd like that." They moved through the thinning crowd together, drawing curious glances but no comments. Outside, the night air had cooled considerably. Claire wrapped her arms around herself, the sleeveless emerald dress offering little protection against the chill. Without a word, Father removed his suit jacket and placed it around her shoulders. The gesture was so unexpected, so normal and paternal, that Claire found herself blinking back tears. "Thank you," she said softly. They walked in silence through the parking lot until they reached Claire's car. Standing there in the dim light, Father cleared his throat.
"This isn't easy for me,"
he began.
"I know. I don't understand it. I might never fully understand it."
Claire nodded, waiting. "But you're still my child." The words seemed difficult for him to say, but he pushed through.
"And your mother would have—"
He paused, swallowing hard.
"Margaret would have wanted me to try."
Claire felt tears threatening again, dangerously close to ruining her carefully applied mascara. "That's all I'm asking for. Just try." Father nodded stiffly.
"Dinner. Thursday. 7 o'clock at D'Angelo's."
"I'll be there." An awkward moment followed, neither certain how to conclude this tentative peace offering. Finally, Father extended his hand formally. Claire took it, but then stepped forward and embraced him briefly. He remained stiff, clearly uncomfortable, but didn't pull away. "Good night, Father." "Good night." Claire. She got into her car, the emerald dress pooling around her legs. Through the window, she watched Father standing in the parking lot, a solitary figure in the darkness. He raised a hand in farewell as she drove away. The drive home felt different than the anxious journey to the wedding hours earlier. The same person sat behind the wheel, auburn hair now slightly disheveled, makeup somewhat faded, but something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in years, Claire felt whole, the divided self beginning to heal. The apartment welcomed her back, quiet and familiar. She carefully hung the emerald dress in her closet, running a hand over the delicate lace detailing that had caught so many eyes throughout the day. It would forever be associated with this moment of emergence, this step into authenticity. Claire removed her makeup methodically, watching as the carefully constructed face gave way to her natural features. Even barefaced, with auburn hair pulled back, she recognized herself now in ways she never had before. "Claire," she said to her reflection, the name feeling right on her lips. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would be difficult conversations with Father, explanations to friends who knew only Roger, adjustments to a world that didn't always make space for people like her. But tonight had proven that authenticity, however frightening, opened doors previously thought sealed forever. Claire crawled into bed, exhausted but content. For the first time in years, she fell asleep without the weight of a double life pressing down on her chest. The emerald dress hung in her closet, not a costume, but simply clothing that reflected the person she had always been beneath the surface. Outside, the city continued its nighttime rhythm. Inside, in the quiet darkness of her bedroom, Claire slept peacefully, auburn hair spread across her pillow,
dreaming of emerald green and newfound freedom.
Thanks for watching, my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.